Welcome one, welcome all, and welcome to an honest review of 1974's The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, a part of our Classic Horrors Month on Unleash the Ghouls. We've done A Nightmare on Elm Street, which we loved, The Exorcist, which we didn't, and now the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. But before we get into it, Stu, get them to do something, please.
There's a link in the top comments that you can press to buy us a beer, which would be really appreciated if you appreciate what we do on this channel. Thanks.
Thank you, Stu. Yes, quench our thirst with the link down below. But to quench our thirst with a plot, it's coffee.
Quench your thirst with a plot? Anyway, this film follows a bunch of mates who have gone back to one of their grandparents' grave.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's been desecrated.
They get beaten up and murdered by a guy wearing someone else's skin on his face, and they find out there's a bunch of cannibals around, really. That's pretty much this entire film. Very start. Begin.
The film begins, as films do, with a classic opening narration by some man who's got a very documentary voice, and he tells about the things that are going to happen in the next hour and a half. the man who did this voiceover, right? The man who did this voiceover, his payment for doing the voiceover was a joint of marijuana.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, I remember seeing that somewhere. Yeah.
Oh my god.
It's amazing, isn't it?
Fucking brilliant. It's ended up being like a proper iconic opening to a film, and it's like, oh, well, how much money do you get for that? Didn't exactly get money.
The best bit of all of that is that you went, was a joint of marijuana.
He got a joint of tobacco leaves.
But it starts off, right, and we get like eerie flash photographs of like a crime scene. Oh, I love the noise. It's like the I just think, you know what I mean? You know what I mean?
No, I don't. Can you repeat that?
It went
Oh my god.
I think that's bang on, you know.
Well, to be honest though, this film started as films do. Classic low-budget horror film, group of teenagers. And when I heard this was like a slaughterhouse movie, I thought it was going to be Joe Budden, Royster 5'9". I thought I was going to get a really different experience, but I got some kids in a car. These actors aren't always likeable, but they are pretty believable. This was banned in a load of countries, right? And so you'd automatically assume that this was a total gore fest. But this wasn't really what this film was about. I think this was more about like the brutality and the bizarre situations that main woman finds herself in. And it's more of like a sensory horror, right? And the soundtrack emulates the grittiness, like you mentioned that weird noise at the beginning, and it creates an overall atmosphere on the film. And it's all about kind of overloading your senses and the overall experience. But it degenerated into this kind of, it just felt a bit like Benny Hill.
What? Just chasing?
It was just the chase scenes from Benny Hill with screams and chainsaw noises.
I am definitely overlaid to the... I'm 100% doing that.
It was literally that. Look, we can emulate this film right now. Connor, you do the tune. Kofi, you make some...
Should I do Leatherface noises?
No, you do chainsaw noises.
Okay.
I'll do the screams.
Right, are we ready? Let's go.
Yeah.
3, 4...
Everyone's dead except this bitch that won't stop screaming.
But in all seriousness, I think it was a really popular film because it was based on true events.
It's Ed Gein, isn't it, or whatever?
Yeah, inspired by Ed Gein.
But most of it is actually fiction.
Yeah, I mean, it's not like he ran around with a chainsaw. They've just fucking gone crazy with it, right?
Obviously, back then, 1974, when you hear a true story like this, everyone will be like, whoa, have you seen this film? It's actually true. Like, oh, let's go watch it.
Yeah,
everyone would have been there.
And it did have that buzz about it. I mean, it was super micro budget, like 80 grand up to like 140 grand with the editing on top. But then 30.9 mil. It's like one of the biggest money makers in terms of like budget to box office.
Jesus.
That's unbelievable. Fair play.
It's weird how it was banned though, because even though it's got that reputation behind it, there's not actually much blood or gore in it. A lot of it's implied. So like Leatherface will kill someone with the chainsaw, but you only see him like swinging the chainsaw about. You don't see it go into a body, you don't see guts, you don't see blood. good.
Yeah.
And Toby Hooper, the director, actually attempted to make the film a PG. He was like, oh, there's nothing wrong with this film. Get it as a PG. And they were like, are you fucking mental? X-ray the shit out of that. Because it's so low budget, it's so fucking grainy and just gritty. And I think it suits the setting of the film and the age of the film as well. It just kind of has like a documentary kind of vibe about it. Some characters in this do my fucking twatting, you know. Franklin. He is infinitely more irritating than any other character I've ever seen in a film. He's fucking useless for a start. And that sounds horrendous to say, but it's not for the reason you think.
Because he's got no fucking legs.
No! He's useless because he's just a dickhead.
He actually is a knob.
He fucking shouts at every other person for not going out their way to help him. And there's like one scene where like they're all looking like through an empty house. Two of the girls are like having a conversation, they're having a laugh, and he just starts doing like the classic fucking schoolyard. What are you doing, mate? Take a good hard look at yourself in the mirror, Reese.
And grow some fucking legs.
But the fucking idiot as well, the very first scene we see him in is he's having a piss at the side of the road, right? And a wagon goes past about 15 feet away from where he's positioned, and it somehow knocks him down a hill.
It's like when a UFO flies over him in Plan 9 from Outer Space. Yeah.
Whoa! He's a right silly bollocks, and I'm glad he gets decimated with a chainsaw as
They
well.
all do. Well, nearly all.
Well, most of them do. There's one lad who gets twatted over the head with a mallet. One disco stew looking cunt.
Someone gets like hung up on a meat hook.
That's pretty fucking horrendous, to be fair.
It's horrendous, but like again, you don't see anything. She's just there with a meat hook behind her. Oh no, you're chainsawing him.
But then she gets thrown in the freezer though, and Disco Stew opens the freezer and oh look, she's dead. She's dead. She's lying there in the freezer. She's had a hook shoved up her arse, right? And then she just goes, and she's awake again.
And then she's dead.
I know we've been using the sound effects, or I've been using the sound effects of this film. Interestingly, a fact that I read is that there's no like soundtrack of the film, and all of the sound effects are sounds from like slaughterhouses, like of equipment. So I think that was quite a good thematic link. Let's get to the final act of the film, as there's one girl left, Sally, played by Marilyn Burns. To me, it felt like this is how a real person in this situation would act. There's so many close-up shots of like her eyes, as wide as they can be. It gives me the feeling of just her like fear and desperation, really. But yeah, we get our Benny Hill chase scenes though. There's a lot of chasing in this final act of the film. Some of them are like fucking 15 minutes long. Like there's a bit where she sees Leatherface and he kills her brother Franklin. She legs it through the woods to the house, legs it round the house, jumps out the window, back into the woods, to the gas station, out the gas station, to the house, back out the house again, and then gets in a fucking wagon at the end.
Just things happening because they needed stuff to do. That's what it feels like.
To be fair though, if you were chasing her, if it was you chasing her and she did that journey, you'd probably give up, wouldn't you?
You just fucking stop and wait for her.
How's Leatherface not knackered? Like, how much cardio do you think this cunt gets? He just eats barbecue fucking people all day.
He's on that Joe Rogan carnivore diet.
Yeah, I fucking really like this film.
Pretty good.
Yeah, it was alright. It's not a film that I would like deliberately go out of my way to watch, if that makes sense.
Yeah, well, it came out in the same era as like the slasher genre was just starting to kind of find its feet. It was one of the main films that moved with that movement of cinema in general anyway. And yeah, spawned a whole franchise. Will we come back to Texas Chainsaw Massacre? Probably at some point.
Yeah, might as well.
If you can scream, make sure you donate and buy us a beer. And to play us out, here is Benny Hill.
Yes, quench our thirst, and until next week.
Wow. We've really excelled at this podcast.
Good.
This is what our lives have become.